Fellas, it is time. You see it on the screen. Today, I am finally taking on the tier list maker and ranking all of these SQUADRA heroes coming to the end of Season 1. Season 1's ranking process is over now. We're like a day away from Season 2, which means this is the last chance I have to do something like this. I've actually been wanting to make this list for a while now, but to be honest, I wanted to wait to get more information on all the different characters before doing this, and also I wanted to grind my own personal rank in-game so that I felt like I had some sort of personal credibility when making this list. But today, I am ready for this, and I hope you guys are ready as well. And also, of course, I hope you guys will enjoy the video. If you do, show your support down below, comment down below your thoughts. I think it goes without saying, but this being a tier list and all, there will be some sort of personal preference to this. I will try to be as objective as possible, but bias is going to be there no matter what. So if you disagree with some of the placements, let me know in the comments down below where you disagree and everything. Of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments below about the list and everything. With that being said though, let's go ahead and jump straight into the ranking process. And I will say right now, I'm going to leave chapters for all the different characters in the vid. So if you want to hear me talk about some specific character, I will leave chapters for you guys in the vid, of course. Anyways, going through the ranking setup right here. So we have 6 different tiers right here. We have the GOATs of SQUADRA. I think these are kind of self-explanatory, but I will explain them if necessary. The GOATs of SQUADRA, some of the greats, just a bit below the GOATs, but they're still very powerful. Quite good. I think I actually will like a lot of the characters in this top 3 kind of section right here, but I just have other picks, of course. Could be better, could be worse. Basically, you could redefine this as mid, but could be better, could be worse. Fuel's bad, and then Bumjack or Bojack. There's a lot of different names for Bojack, but yeah, Bojack, as you can see, a bit of a spoiler, he's gonna have his own specific tier. And actually, speaking of which, obviously I have the different characters here. Let's go ahead and take Bojack and just rightfully put him as the king of the bums, the king of trash right here, Bojack. Bojack fans, I know I have a few Bojack fans who support the channel and everything. I'm so sorry to you guys. I am disrespecting Bojack a lot here, but I think it is for fair reason, because if you guys see any other tier lists, you will see these same takes being said about Bojack. Bojack, it is so frustrating how bad this character is. I talked about him in my recent video where I talked about characters that need buffs, and I'll say it here again as well. The thing about Bojack is, when you look at him in terms of his base principle conceptual design, he seems pretty powerful, right? He has a bunch of attack range, pretty decent amount of burst damage, and when you look at this specific kind of diagram, the crazy thing is, it is very similar to Super Saiyan 3 Goku, but the thing is, Super Saiyan 3 Goku has a specific kit design with a bit more mobility, which allows him to be far more successful and valuable compared to Bojack, right? Bojack, when you compare the two, despite them being very similar in terms of the concept and the idea behind them, and the fact that Bojack is a very minimal difficulty character, he is still a character with so little value. His super attack, his skills, they aren't great for securing bosses. He himself is not the greatest in terms of just taking out characters out of nowhere. He really isn't great in terms of his overall performance. And I think when you look at his whole design process, he is just a very frustrating character to use, to have on your team. I've seen people dodge because there was a Bojack on their team before. I've seen so many people complain about Bojack being on their team. I myself have complained about Bojack on my team, of course, before, if you guys follow me on Twitter. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I need to say too much when it comes to Bojack or Bumjack. I'm just going to call him Bojack now because I feel like calling him Bumjack all the time is going to be disrespectful. But Bojack, I feel like I've seen some great Bojack players. Don't get me wrong. I've seen a few. And to be fair, with all these characters, if you take the time to master them, you can be one of the best to ever do it with these characters. But Bojack, compared to all the other characters in this list, especially other damage dealing characters, Bojack just doesn't offer anything to me that is of substantial value and unique value to justify him being a worthwhile option, knowing that there's other characters I could personally take, that others could personally take in terms of the roster. So in all those sorts of aspects, Bojack is going through it, and he's definitely at the bottom of this list. Season 2 is coming very soon though, and I know a lot of people have been begging for Bojack buffs, so I will say, in a few days from now, this specific placement for Bojack could change drastically. Bojack could jump up to quite good, you know, something like that. I don't expect him to become a GOAT of SQUADRA or some of the greats. If he ends up on this top level right here, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be honest, because I'm not the biggest Bojack fan as a character, but I think he has a good opportunity to be a lot better. We'll just have to wait and see if he's going to get any sort of crazy buffs in the very near future. But yeah, so there you go with Bojack. Next up, we'll go in terms of the order here now. Super Saiyan Goku. Obviously, you guys know Goku, Super Saiyan Goku especially, is my favorite character. So in terms of the character pick, I mean, this guy is like pure #1. But in terms of the character himself in game, this is where things can be a bit interesting, because obviously for those who know, pre-nerf Super Saiyan Goku, right, the beginning of season 1, Goku is probably the #1 character of the game. He was a menace. People to this day still, like, I think have cold sweats thinking about that prior version of Goku, because he did so much damage. His Kamehameha, his Kaioken, his Spirit Bomb, all those things were in his arsenal, and he was so powerful. After the nerf, he did get a bit of a setback. Obviously, they reduced the power of his Kaioken in certain aspects, like the movement speed and everything. They reduced the length of his Kaioken buff to his Meteor Hammer and his Kamehameha. They did certain things like that, but really, when I look at this character, he is still a GOAT of SQUADRA, and I say this knowing that there is going to be a lot of personal fandom for Goku because he's Goku, but also I think a lot of people will agree Goku is still one of the best to do it. And even now, I think you could make the argument that he is the #1 character in the game, period, but I just don't think I would make that argument anymore. I think you could do it, but Goku, he's still one of the best to do it. His Spirit Bomb is unchanged. They didn't nerf the Spirit Bomb, so he's still a fantastic character at securing bosses, at clearing out, gods of destruction with that Spirit Bomb, especially at level 3. That size of that Spirit Bomb is so nasty, and the damage is crazy. And one thing that's very interesting about the Spirit Bomb, which even sometimes I forget it when it happens, you can drop the Spirit Bomb on a location like we're seeing right here. Someone could throw in an opponent into this position, and even though the Spirit Bomb already landed, once they get tossed into the Spirit Bomb after the fact, they'll still take damage, which is the funny thing about it. So when you look at that, that's just crazy. The Kaioken, the combination of that and the Kamehameha, his damage output is still very powerful, so I don't want to discredit that. Even after the nerf, he is still very good. And the awesome thing about Goku is he's an all-around character, right? If you need someone who has a decent amount of HP, Goku does have that to offer. He's not the weakest damage dealing character. He has a decent amount of range, decent amount of damage overall and everything, mobility with the Kaioken. He can do some pretty good stuff. But yeah, Goku, still a top level character to me. I don't know if they're going to nerf him any further. I hope to God they don't, because I cannot bear to see another nerf to my king. But at the same time, he's still definitely one of the best to do it. I don't think he's the best, but he's definitely up there for sure on the GOATs. I think he's just definitely there for sure. Okay, moving on to Piccolo. I did kind of ramble on with Goku there for a bit longer than I think I needed to. But with Piccolo, this is going to be interesting because I think where I put Piccolo right here, some people will either think I'm being too harsh or too nice, or I don't know. It's going to be interesting where I put him. For me, Piccolo is quite good. Now, if I have to specify, and this specific, like within the tiers themselves, they're not going to be in order for me for the most part, but Piccolo is probably like on the highest section of quite good to the like mid-low section of some of the greats. And we'll talk about some of the greats later. The thing about Piccolo is very strong if you master Piccolo, and I've seen some really great masterful Piccolo players, but most people don't really use Piccolo to that high level gameplay. Piccolo, he's a decently difficult character to master, but he has insane burst damage, crazy range. Really, he's a very powerful character for those who actually know what to do with him. And really, I think the powerful things about Piccolo come with his first skill and obviously his special beam cannon. If you've had any good Piccolo player on your team, you will know they are so good at just farming bosses. Piccolo is probably the best character to farm bosses and kind of secure those kills. And really it's because of his special beam cannon, just being a one-hit burst, crazy amount of damage if it's charged up and everything. Piccolo is really awesome for that. His light grenade, especially with the super start right away and everything, and the skill damage buff right now, that damage at level 3, it's crazy, and he can just launch it from the other side of the planet and it'll just nuke you because it does more damage the further away you are. So yeah, those are all very powerful things about Piccolo's kit. For me though, I think the reason why I put him a bit lower than maybe some other people have him is really because it's the combination of Hell Zone Trap and Demon Whip. Now, Demon Whip is actually pretty good for those who know how to use Piccolo because it can be very good for his mobility, getting him out of bad situations. That is very important because Piccolo can get caught in some very problematic positions if he's just being chased after. But also Hell Zone Grenade or Hell Zone Trap. This, when you look at it, all these key orbs and everything, oh, it looks great, right? However, it's very easy to avoid half of them just based on you just seeing where the Hell Zone orbs are. You can avoid them fairly easily. So when I look at that, it's one of those things where I just don't like this ability. I want it to be better. I think it will be hopefully buffed sometime soon, but it's one of those things where it just isn't good enough to me to where I want it to be I want it to be a lot better than what it is. Right now, the Light Grenade, the Special Beam Cannon, these two abilities do so much for Piccolo's value. It's just the Hell Zone Trap and the Demon Whip, which aren't doing enough for me. Demon Whip can do a lot in some good hands, but for the most part, Piccolo players, they don't know how to maximize this. I don't know how to maximize it quite yet personally. Hellzone Trap, just, yeah, you guys can see where I'm getting at. So Piccolo, I think quite good is a fair position to put him in. Again, he's at the high part of this tier, if not the low part of this tier right here. But for me, I'm going to put him at quite good. Maybe we'll adjust as we go through the process, but yeah, Piccolo I think for there is perfectly fine. Frieza, speaking of another character who is quite good, Frieza, let's go ahead and put you right here. So Frieza, this is interesting because I will say, if you look at Frieza at the beginning of Season 1, I think you could have put him right here as the best tentacle in the game, one of the GOATs. I think you could have put him there at the very beginning when people didn't understand what made him tick and what was so great about him. I think you could have had him there. As time has progressed, as we've gotten a few more characters and people understand Frieza a lot, right? Like now we're all familiar with Frieza's game. Now Frieza, I think, is in the quite good position where he can be some of the greats as well. He can have great moments, but overall he is still susceptible to a lot of problems. I will say that. The thing about Frieza is Dodoria sucks. Like Dodoria is great for enemy displacement and everything, and I've seen some great Dodoria usages, but for the most part Dodoria is not that great. Really, it's Zarbon, the Imperial Decree, and the Supernova. And Zarbon, they buff Zarbon, which is why Zarbon and Frieza is so good right now in Season 1. But if you are an opposing player, you see him place Zarbon, you know, if you're knowing what you're doing, you will know to go after Zarbon, eliminate Zarbon, because once Zarbon is taken out, it's going to take a while for him to come back, and that is a significant drop in Frieza's damage. And then Imperial Decree, you really can't do nothing to stop that if Frieza does it, but obviously that will buff Zarbon. If you just go ahead and get rid of Zarbon, then the Imperial Decree buff for him doesn't really matter. Supernova, that one's kind of interesting because Frieza is really good at securing bosses with this, but also at level 3, this can clear out lanes. This is such a massive attack, such a good range. It's very powerful, but for me, I think the one thing that I will say when it comes to Frieza is, again, Dodoria is kind of like the big weakness of him. His rush attack range isn't all that crazy. And then also, the other thing about Frieza, which I kind of don't like about him, is his HP. And it makes sense. First form Frieza is the weakest form of Frieza, I guess in that sense. He's meant to be a support, so all those things, yeah, low HP. But really, when you look at Frieza, he's so easy to kind of like beat down and knock out if you and your teammate are able to corner him, kind of get him in a bad position, and if you just go ahead and focus him down. Frieza is in that kind of position where he can be taken out pretty quickly, but yeah, for me, Frieza is quite good. I think quite good is a fair spot to put Frieza. You could put him up here. I don't think he's one of the best to ever do in a squad right now. I don't think he's down here. I think quite good is a, you know, in no pun, or not no pun intended, but whatever, like no, you know, whatever. I think quite good is a good spot to put Frieza. Let me say it for that. Okay, baby, ooh. Baby fans, I don't know how many baby fans I have supporting the channel, but baby fans, if you guys see this, you may hate me, and I will explain what I say in a fair reasoning, I think, but I think you will still hate me. Baby to me is the worst tank in SQUADRA. I'm saying it for what it is. He's the worst tank to me in SQUADRA. He feels bad. Now, I say this to say though, I've seen great baby players, and if you are good at baby, he can be really good. He can be really awesome and very fun to work with as well as a teammate, but on average, and I say this as someone who's been playing Baby a lot recently too to get him like the battle score and everything, Baby feels bad to play, especially as a solo queue, and I should actually clarify that now. A lot of these takes are based off my kind of heavily solo queue position of point of view, but Baby as a solo queue player especially feels terrible to run because Baby isn't the most tanky character in the world. He heavily relies on good teammates to like kind of work with you and like make things work. And as a solo queue player, you don't often get that. And the interesting thing is, a lot of people will say that Cell, we'll talk about Cell in just a sec, that he is the worst tank in the game. I've been disagreeing with this whole take for quite a while now, and I've been saying it's Baby. Baby defenders will tell me Baby's very good when you have great teammates or good teammates or something like that. Like he's good in multiple like teammate situations, 2v2s and stuff. I do agree with that. I think Baby in those group settings is very good. Here's the problem. Baby, when it comes to his individual performance in the actual kind of like, when you look at Baby in a one-on-one situation, Baby just doesn't really got it to me. Like I really don't like Baby in a one-on-one situation. Even his third skill, it's all about possessing a teammate. So he literally needs a teammate to do his full kit in terms of accessibility and everything. So Baby in a one-on-one situation, I don't like him compared to some of the other options. Again, he's not the tankiest character, he's not the fastest character. So I look at all those different things. Baby for me just, yeah, again, he feels bad, and he's not the best at securing bosses. He's got a decent ability with his first skill where he can push back the enemies, so that's good as a tank defending your teammates. But also, I've seen this happen where this exact same ability and the opportunities that can be provided here, where pushing you, like you push the enemy back, I've seen this happen where that same ability will screw your teammates over, because say you have a Goku on the top here, Kamehameha, and then you push the opposite Goku away. Now the Kamehameha misses, you just lost a bunch of damage, and also because that you could do your skill 1, which doesn't even do that much damage compared to a damage dealing Kamehameha and stuff. So, you know what I mean? Like, Baby, I think in a team setting, if you have a teammate who's queuing with you as Baby and you coordinate, you can have a lot of great Baby game experiences. But for me, Baby feels bad. For me, overall, Baby is the worst tank. I think he should get some buffs, more so than Cell, more so than any other tank. I think Baby needs some upgrades. They nerfed him so hard going into the game launch from the beta. He deserves a bit of kickback. He deserves a bit of like some love to kind of get him back to a decent level, in my opinion. Moving on, Zamasu, the god himself, the supreme Kai god or whatever, the hater of mortals. He, for me, he's not in feels bad. I just left him there for a sec. He is actually one of the greats, some of the greats right there. I'm going to put Zamasu there. And I say this because Zamasu, here's the interesting thing. Zamasu pre-buff probably would not have gotten that much love. In fact, I think pre-buff Zamasu was in the conversation for one of the worst tanks actually for a lot of people. But after the buff to his body regeneration, to all the sort of stuff, Zamasu is so much more successful as a tank, and he still has a lot of great things to offer. But I still will say there are one or two criticisms I have about Zamasu's design. For one, I don't like his second skill. I really do hate it. We have the skill damage boost for skill 2 coming in season 2. I hate to see what that's going to do for Zamasu players, because this skill, unless it gets nerfed, this is trash to me. It basically is a long lunging forward type of attack. You can drag enemies, forcibly move them with it, so that's nice for displacing enemies. However, again, you have to kind of position yourself to maximize this. Either you like move around to position themselves to push them to your teammates, or you push them away from a point, and it's hard to readjust it. You have to line it up. There are situations where I've just seen that become so useless for me, and I know there's moments where it's been really good. I know Zamasu mains who maximize this, but this skill, I hate it with a very serious passion. I really do not like it. And then the other thing about Zamasu I will say is, in terms of his mobility, I wish he was just a smidge faster. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like Zamasu, for who he is and everything, like what he has to offer, I think he could be a smidge faster. Like, look at this guy. This guy is a slender body ass type build dude. He could be a bit faster than what he is. I feel like I've seen him move slower than cooler at times, which is crazy. I don't think that's actually true. I'm just kind of speaking off the top of my brain there with that, but like Zamasu definitely could use a bit more in certain aspects. However, with that being said, he still is so powerful, so good, especially with the buff and everything. I really hate it on Zamasu there. His Heavenly Arrow, his first skill, is really good with the movement speed down and everything. The damage is good in my opinion. The God Slicer with the damage over time, that can be nasty, that can be very powerful. And his ult too, it is pretty good in terms of what he can do. Obviously, he will regenerate everything in that process, the movement speed down, everything, that can be powerful. So to Zamasu's credit, he can be pretty good. And also with his super, I will say that, and specifically with this, it's pretty decent at securing bosses. It's not the perfect ability, but it is not that bad either. So in those senses, I really do like Zamasu overall. Not one of the best tanks to ever do it, or he is one of the best tanks, I guess, but he's not the best tank. He's not a GOAT to me, but he's definitely up there overall. Okay, Super Oob. So Super Oob, if we were talking about Super Oob where he could do the glitch where he could like attack God Destructions without having to like worry about Zeno, he'd be a GOAT. Because that would just be some of the most stupid, broken bullshit in the history of like mankind. But now that he's kind of back to normal, if you will, and everything, I would say could be better, could be worse. I've seen some decent Oob players, but Oob is one of those characters where it's very easy to kind of shut him down, I would say. And also Oob, the thing about Oob is similar to Piccolo. His Cyclone Burst, his ultimate, it's a beam attack, right? It's actually pretty nice and everything, but you can escape the beam effect, you can just kind of go around it, so those sorts of things don't help Oob the most. And also, I mean, the rest of his skill set, like, he's got decent abilities, but it's hard for Oob, in my opinion, to really get successful, because unlike Piccolo, who's able to kind of do his work from a further range, Oob needs to kind of get in the mix, right? His range, I don't think, is as big as Piccolo's. He needs to get in the mix to really kind of maximize his Cyclone effect and everything. He has a lot of sustained damage ability, but as we all know, sustained damage is all well and good, but you can beat that with burst damage and just kind of like get around certain situations. So for me, Oob is one of those characters where he could be better, he could be worse. I think he should get a buff eventually, but we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens for him. But for me though, I think this is a good spot for him. I'm not going to say too much about Oob, but I think this is a fair spot for him regardless. Krillin. Oh boy, Krillin. I love Krillin, I will say that. I love the character design, I've loved using him and everything. As I've progressed through this game, as I've gotten more characters, he feels bad. And the thing is, Krillin himself isn't even that bad. Like, he is, in my opinion, better than Baby, like relative to their roles and everything. I like Krillin a lot more. I've seen more successful Krillins, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things. He's really good at securing bosses, maybe underratedly so because of the Destructo Disc and everything. But compared to the other technicals and compared to the other characters in this roster, he feels bad mainly because it is easy to shut down Krillin, similar to what I had said with Oob, right? Where, first of all, his solar flare sucks ass. Like, this sucks so much. There is no use to this skill. Like, you have to solar flare an enemy who is facing Krillin. So if the guy just turns around, you can't apply the flash effect, the marking, and attack down. These debuffs don't work for enemies who aren't looking at Krillin. So if Krillin is right in front of me and I know that he's going to do solar flare, I just turn around. I literally look the other way for a second and I turn back to Krillin and just beat his ass. So that's the one thing that sucks with Krillin. The other thing is his energy mine, and his energy mine is very powerful when it works. However, it's very easy to beat it because all you have to do is just attack it with another Ki Blast attack. Like Android 17 can do that. Super Saiyan 3 Goku is so frustrating to fight against because he just turns his Kamehameha and just gets rid of all these mines. Those sorts of super, like the Kamehamehas and everything, they can just get rid of that. So all those things can kind of ruin Krillin's kind of ability for success, in my opinion. And again, the thing with Krillin is, compared to the other technical characters that we see right here, like Buu and 17, he just isn't valuable enough compared to these other characters, in my opinion. So that's really why Krillin gets hoed compared to the others. He just feels bad for me compared to the others. He himself, I guess you could say he could be better, could be worse, but especially thinking about how he kind of stacks compared to the other technicals, it feels bad. I do want to see Krillin get some buffs. I don't think he will get a buff, but it feels bad seeing where he is at this point in the game's kind of overall roster balance design. Next up, Dabura, the king of the demon realm for like all of like, what, 10 episodes? I don't know. How long was Dabura in the Majin Buu saga? I can't even remember, low-key. I gotta rewatch that. But Dabura, he could be better, he could be worse. I think that is a very fair placement for Dabura specifically. And if you ask people, Dabura, the thing about him is, I completely messed up the whole tab thing. Dabura, the thing about him is, he is one of those characters that has some good effects, but he just isn't good enough to really be oppressive without that effect. And the gimmick is his petrification gauge. If you get the petrification, then Dabura is cooking. Then he is, you know, that guy. But you have to get the petrification to land. You can avoid the petrification by just dodging him or doing something like that. So, you know, it's not too difficult to escape it, especially if you're in like a multiple team situation. You can jump Dabura and get rid of him. But Dabura, I mean, he's got interesting abilities. I will give him credit there. He's got a lot of petrification in his kit to offer, so it's not like a one and done kind of thing. You can do a lot to get there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Dabura, he just feels weird. Like, he has some great upsides. I've seen some really good moments with Dabura, but on average, it's very easy to get after him. He's not the most difficult character to wear down and to beat up, especially when you only have 2 lanes in the game. You're gonna have 2-on-2 situations. It's not that difficult to chase after Dabura, shut him down, beat him up, take him out, and then you can focus on the tank who's going to be right beside him. And speaking of which, that's another thing about Dabura which kind of is an issue. Dabura really excels when facing tanks. That's where he really does excel. So he's kind of relegated to the bottom lane 9 times out of 10. You could put him in the top lane, but it's just not a situation that is better suited for him compared to the other side. So you really are only picking Dabura for one specific lane for like crazy amount of success and everything. It's tough. Dabura, I think, can be better, but I think for right now, he's kind of like in the average kind of position. He's mid. I think he could be better, but he's definitely not the worst damage dealer. Bojack is right there, so I mean, I'll give that credit to Dabura, but that's about as far as I'll go in terms of, you know, that sort of thing. Dabura, I think right here is perfectly appropriate in the grand scheme of things. Next up, Majin Buu, simply put, some of the greats. He is so fun to use post buff. Buu is different. Buu is actually a fun character. If you guys have not played Buu yet, I highly recommend doing so. And the thing is, I will say this. The criticism I gave to Baby does apply to Buu as well, where to really maximize Buu, just like with Baby, you want to have him with a team of other players who are coordinating with you and who are kind of on the same synergy with you. However, the difference with Buu versus Baby is his skill set is just better suited in case he is by himself, right? With his whole third skill right here, the Ready Go, basically he becomes Sonic the Hedgehog, but like bigger. Like that sounds crazy, but he literally can just run super fast, bump everyone out the way. He can literally displace enemies with that ability. I've used this to secure EX Cell Jr. like a lot of times because I just move Cell Jr. away from the enemies and just keep him to myself. And then on top of that, you can use it to run away as well. So it's so powerful. And also, this is something right here. You apply no skills to any enemies you hit. So when you hit them, they can't fire back with the Kamehameha and stuff like that. So that's really helpful as well for giving Buu a chance to survive. I've used this to chase after enemies and get the kill and everything. This is a very powerful ability, maybe underrated, but it is still very good. The Healing Ray goes without saying. It is so clutch, especially once you like hit mid game to end game. The Healing Ray can apply to multiple like heroes at the same time, and you can literally use this to turn the tide of a battle. I've used the Healing Ray before to heal all three of my teammates, and then we just put more pressure back on the God Destruction and keep wiping out the enemies. And literally, it's just us 4v1ing every single person. It's literally just us ganging up and jumping everyone. So it's so fun, so great. Even in solo queue, you can have those moments with Buu, which is so fantastic. The one criticism I will give is his Candy Ray. His Candy Ray can be really awesome. I've had it happen where, you know, you do the Candy Ray, you turn them to candy, they can't do nothing, and all of a sudden you're safe, you can run away, you can attack them, do whatever. But the Candy Ray itself isn't the craziest ability in terms of value. If there was more damage to it, or I think a longer effect to the candy or something, I think that would be better. But for me, literally with Majin Buu, what I will do is I will go for skill 1, skill 2, skill 3 and prioritize those, and probably leave the super till the very end because I just don't need it versus those other abilities. Speaking of which, I don't want to forget this, the Strangle Gun. This ability to increase the hitbox is nasty, and it slows them down and everything. You could chase after them. It's got decent range, decent damage as well. Actually, I've used this to secure bosses. Buu is very good in a lot of different ways. Again, he is one of the greats. I don't think he's a GOAT because he is kind of predicated on your teammates working with you if you want to maximize his value. And also, he's not the best at securing bosses, of course. You know, he's not the tankiest character and all, but he's got a lot of great things to offer, and he's pretty consistent at them if you take the time to at least learn how to use them. So in that sense, yeah, Buu I think is a perfect spot right here. Android 18, quite good. Simply put, I will say, Android 18 is a character that I see very few times. Like, the times I see Android 18 played are few and far between. But when I see her, she is so good because of this right here, this massive jump in mobility. She can literally just, like, shout out to Minato Slash, of course. Android 18 is like the Minato of like freaking SQUADRA. Like, she just jumps in and out like the freaking yellow Flash. Like, what the heck is she doing? She is so quick going in and out of every single position. Like, the lightning step here, the charging kick, look how fast that is, right? Literally, it's crazy what she can do. No skills on the enemy that she hits and everything. The more stacks you apply of the assault rush, which is her passive right here, you do more damage, acceleration dash and everything for more lunging and more mobility. And of course, her ult, right? Literally just a massive jump punch into someone, which is insane. So 18, I will say, I don't see a lot of people play her, which is the one issue, I guess, is it's hard to see a lot of 18 gameplay to justify the goods and bads. When it comes to the bads, she can suffer from weaknesses of like survivability if you're prepared for her. If you're ready for her, you know she's coming, you can get after her pretty well and kind of take her out easily if she gets in a bad position, and a lot of her skills focus on you kind of getting into the enemy's kind of space and then getting out of there. You can, like, you know, take her out pretty quickly in those positions if you're ready, but still, her damage is quite good, her mobility is exceptional, and really, she, like, the good Android 18 players know how to position themselves to literally just jump in, jump out, and literally just maximize their opportunities like nobody's business. So 18, yeah, I mean, she is quite good to me. I think in a lot of people's cases, I think they underrate 18 because we don't see her too often, but she definitely is quite good to me. Super Saiyan 2 Caulifla. Okay, so Super Saiyan 2 Caulifla for me is quite good. There is a part of me that wants to put her in some of the greats, but I think quite good is a fair spot to put her in. And really what makes her have such a high level of value anyways is her provoke status, her provoke ability in that sense, because the ability to just provoke opponents and have them redirect their attacks to you is very annoying. Like there are moments where I've faced Caulifla, she'll provoke me and I will miss out on the KO on the 1 HP Dabura or someone else just because she decides to turn me to her. Or there's times where as Cooler, she'll provoke me and I'm trying to use my dash to get away from her, and all of a sudden my dash is automatically turned towards her, making me lose my life and just have to go through the respawn timer for 30 seconds. She's very annoying because of this provoke mechanic altogether. So many people are calling for nerfs to that mechanic in particular. But overall, I think she is quite good. She isn't the perfect tank, I will say that. I mean, even with the provoke mechanic, if you know the Caulifla is coming to provoke you and you're aware of it, you and your teammate could just jump her. And it sounds counterintuitive to jump the tank with more HP versus the damage dealer right next to them. But if you jump Caulifla, you can get rid of her pretty quickly in my opinion if you know what you're doing. Get rid of her and then all of a sudden, the other teammate next to her, the damage dealer, has no defensive opportunities to protect them with a provoke mechanic. They don't have a Caulifla to save them. Now you can go after them. So, in that respect, I will say Caulifla's kind of easy to manage. Her ult isn't the craziest in terms of what it can do. It's nice with a provoke, but it's not the craziest ult. She can have some frustrating moments though, for sure, but she isn't like the end all be all, like ruining the game with her tank ability kind of prowess kind of character. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, quite good for her. I think is perfectly appropriate. Cooler, get up here, man. Welcome to the GOATs right here. The GOATs of SQUADRA. I mean, do I even need to explain Cooler? Obviously, Frieza's no brother and everything. Obviously, Cooler, no pun intended, is the cooler of the two. Like, I'm just saying, he's more fun. He's got more swagger. And obviously, look at this man. He is he is literally looking out for all of our health and everything because he is wearing a mask. I mean, this guy is the GOAT. Okay, let me get all the jokes aside, right? Let me be serious. I was messing around there. Let me be for real. Cooler is definitely the best tank in SQUADRA currently. He is also the tank that everyone is saying is due for a nerf, and a pretty decent one at that, but he is still very powerful. And look at his description. He's an offensive type hero, which is kind of crazy as a tank that he's offensively oriented, but he is very good at the offensive powerhouse kind of things, and it starts off with the destruction rate. This Ray at level 3 is very good in terms of the range and everything, especially when you get his whole kind of passive with the retaliation. He can do the extra kind of wave attack and everything, so that enhances his skill, makes him a lot better. He's very good in my opinion for securing Cell Juniors at times if you can manage to do it, but it is kind of tricky because with this Ray, it doesn't do the most damage, so you really have to time it. Like, you really got to be spot on, but he can be good at securing some Cell Juniors at times. I've used this to get some characters running away. This is very good. His Death Stopper, being able to hit you with high pressure, preventing you from any sort of vanishing and everything, is very powerful, so that's really good. The stagger to dashing enemies and also increasing the duration, all that's powerful. And his Death Chaser, this is very good. I've had this really shut down a lot of enemy opposing heroes because right there, you go ahead and slam them with the ground with the retaliation. Now all of a sudden they take more damage, they're stuck there, they have movement speed down for a sec, and now everyone knows this is the one to jump. This is the one to beat the crap out of because he is ready to go to the heavens. So all this is powerful. And Cooler, one thing I will say about Cooler is, when it comes to Cooler in general, let me just say this. Cooler has a very good amount of base HP. His survivability is really, really good already. With the transformation, he gets even better. And then his super, literally it's a black hole gravitational sucking type of attack right here. Like, literally pulls characters to the middle, which means you can do this followed by a Spirit Bomb or a Special Beam Cannon and nuke the enemies. You can just go crazy, and the ranges even increase when you do the retaliation, make it even better. So, all of this is to say Cooler is amazing. He's so powerful, he's so fun. I do expect some nerfs, to be honest. I don't think they're going to shut him down that hard, but I do expect some nerfs. But right now, Cooler is definitely one of the best tanks in the game, if not even one of the best. I'm sorry, he is the best tank in the game. What am I saying? He is the GOAT of tanks. He is so awesome, so great, and definitely a character worth having in your roster because of just how awesome and fun that he is. He's independent, he's powerful, and he can do a lot of crazy work in team settings, but also by himself. He can do a lot to secure kills and to do the damage himself, which is really awesome as someone who sometimes has to do the work by himself, as a solo queue and everything. Sometimes I need him, I need to be a solo Cooler securing bosses. Cooler can do that at times, so Cooler gets a lot of love from me. Son Gohan, so Kid Gohan, I will say, not my favorite character moment for Gohan. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Kid Gohan specifically, but Kid Gohan is one of the GOATs. He is the best technical in my opinion. I've tried to push the agendas elsewhere, but Gohan has stood the test of my hatred. He's you know, handled it really well. And as I use Gohan more and more, personally, I agree. He is the best technical. He is also probably due for a nerf. The one thing that makes him so nasty is his second skill, the Masenkaku. I don't know how to say that, I'm sorry. But literally, attacks just rushes the character. When you hit them and it's not fully charged, you apply no skills to the enemy. So they can't do any skills, right? When it's fully charged, you stagger them. If you are able to coordinate with your teammate, this skill does a lot of crazy chaos, because then just characters get annihilated out of nowhere. They can't do nothing. And with Snowball, especially for Gohan right now, with the Snowball card the way it is, Gohan can do a pretty good amount of damage with this as well. And also, actually, one thing I do want to clarify about this too is, this doesn't have to be only offensive. You can turn around and use this as a defensive tool to get away from someone. So you can use that to get away. You can use this in the back and kind of charge it up and see what happens. And if someone gets in the mix, bam, you charge in, stagger, get to work. Gohan is really nice. I really do like that. And also his passive is really nice too. Maybe an underrated part of his kit, but he's able to boost himself with defense up, and he's giving your ally attack up as well. So that makes your damage dealing character do more work as well. I don't know why they have Gohan and Krillin, because both are technicals, but yeah, the buff and everything is really good. His Masenko being able to do just a basic beam super and everything, but also pushing enemies back at times, that can be very good. And the whole, you know, barrier and everything, it's not my favorite ability, but it can do a lot to save your teammates at times. So, you know, credit where credit is due, those are all very good things about his kit. And his super just basically buffs his rush attack right here, like the damage and everything. So that's pretty awesome, right? But then if you do it again, you're doing a freaking beam, right? Like the, whatchamacallit, like the wild rush blaster, right? And the awesome thing is, if you hit the enemy with the first kick, they're staggered. So they're stuck there. They have to take the full attack. They can't do nothing if they get hit by that first kick. So that is also very nasty. Actually, now that I think about it, Gohan's biggest thing is he staggers too much. Maybe that's why people don't like him. But like, Gohan is so good because of those staggers, because of his movement, his support and everything. He is really good. He doesn't have to be the best damage dealing character. He's not the best at bosses, of course, but the rest of what he can do is so good that honestly, in his case, it doesn't even matter, because the other characters can do the job for you because you're taking care of them with the staggers and all that other sort of stuff right there. Super Saiyan Trunks, Teen Trunks, Future Trunks. For me, he is quite good. I'll put him in the middle right here for quite good. For me, Trunks has a lot of peaks, but also a lot of valleys. And actually, I guess in that sense, you could argue he could be better, could be worse. But for me, he's quite good. He's got more peaks than valleys, because Trunks, his burst damage is so good. He excels at securing bosses and Cell Juniors because of his skills and everything. And also, I mean, this guy, he just does a lot of damage in such a nice way of doing it. Now, when it comes to my criticism of him though, it's twofold. One is his base movement speed. I wish was a bit faster because he's kind of slow. Also, the other thing is his HP. His HP is very weak, and to be fair, as a burst damage character of this caliber, maybe he doesn't want that much HP, otherwise he'd be kind of busted. But also, he's easy to wear down and get rid of, like a lot of other characters, because he doesn't have that much HP. So, you know, there are certain characters who pair with him pretty nicely. I think Gohan and Trunks are a very strong combination. But yeah, Trunks, I think, needs just a bit more to be a bit better. But other than that, I mean, I think he's got a lot of good things to offer. He just needs a buff or two. A buff or two would make him a lot better, but he's still really good nonetheless. Alright, Super Saiyan Vegeta. So Super Saiyan Vegeta, I think, for me, pretty easy to put him here. Could be better, could be worse. Actually, I'll put him at the top of that specifically if I had to like order him. Again, these are not really ordered, but he is like on the higher end of this to like quite good for me. The thing about Super Saiyan Vegeta is, compared to some of the other tanks in the game, compared to a lot like the different characters and everything, he doesn't have the best overall skill set to offer, at least in terms of what I prefer and everything like that, but he still has some very awesome things to offer. And really the first thing we have to talk about is his second skill, the Photon Bomber. This, without a shadow of a doubt, is the best ability in Vegeta's arsenal. When you get Superstar, Vegeta with this is one of the most nasty characters to have to face in early game settings, because level 3 Photon Bomber is massive. Again, you see it pulls enemies towards the center. Energy blast from enemy rush attacks will be destroyed if hit by the explosion. So this guy is got a very awesome second special, something that actually will be a bit better in Season 2, because in Season 2 we're getting the buff to skill 2 and everything for the damage, so this actually will make Vegeta better. But I will say, when I criticize Vegeta, the one criticism I have is with his first skill. This is like a very big problem for me, is his Energy Blast Volley. At level 3, it looks great, right? You look at the image and everything, like, oh man, this looks like an awesome ability. When you look at it at level 1, it sucks. It's so slow in terms of how much damage it does. It does basically no damage. It doesn't fire that many ki blasts, and you have to aim it. That's the thing, you have to aim the Vegeta's technique. And if you're not aiming it, if you're not being thoughtful about that, you can very easily whiff all of your attacks and it will look very embarrassing. But yeah, this is not a skill that I think I like very much on Vegeta. I think it could use a bit of a buff, maybe just the amount of ki blasts fired at each level or the damage or something. But that is a big weakness for me when it comes to Vegeta, the fact that you don't want this, like you don't want Vegeta in this current season, because skill damage 1 buffing everything buffs this, and this is not even, in my opinion, this is the worst ability of Vegeta's kit. I like Explosive Wave more than this. So like Explosive Wave, you know, we talk about that. It's nice and everything. The one thing I do kind of get annoyed about is that it like pushes enemies away, and sometimes, especially when you're doing the like damage and getting their armor back, you kind of want them to be close by so you can continue putting pressure on them and taking them out. But still, Vegeta is still, you know, pretty nice and everything. To be fair, maybe I'm being a bit harsh putting him down here, but I think especially when I look at the other tanks and everything and how he kind of plays between them, he himself is not all too awesome compared to some of these other tanks. His Big Bang attack has a nice explosion effect and everything, damage, but it's not actually as great for securing bosses as one might think, and that's the kind of unfortunate thing about him as well. I've had that happen so many times that more than I care to admit, where he just doesn't secure a boss because Big Bang attack does damage over time and not right away. So, you know, those things are kind of frustrating when it comes to the Prince of All Saiyans. And also, I don't like that you have to get your HP below a certain percentage to gain the like reduced cooldown, because the effect is cool, but getting yourself in a position where you almost are going to die to do that, that's not great, because there are a lot of characters, especially with snowball cards and everything, that they can just take you out from this amount of like half HP right here. They can take you out right then and there. So, you know, when I look at all those things where I think about it, Super Saiyan Vegeta, I think right here is fine. You could put him like quite good somewhere, and I think that would be perfectly appropriate too. I wouldn't put him up here, certainly not up here, and I don't think he feels bad. I think some people maybe would put him down here. I don't think he's in that position. I think could be better, could be worse is a very appropriate spot for Vegeta at the top of that section, closer to quite good. I think that's appropriate for the Prince of All Saiyans. Next up, Daima Goku. Shout out to Sherry, aka Dubai Labu 67, which is still funny saying that. Shout out to Sherry though. But Daima Goku, okay, I don't know why I'm like taking a deep breath. He's one of the GOATs. Like it's clear as day. This guy is nasty in terms of how good he is. And simply put, actually, this guy is broken. Now I think about it, Goku is so freaking stupid because he's got the freaking Wasabi Bomb, which everyone knows is basically the best ability in his kit currently. Like it's so, actually, I don't want to say that because that's not entirely true. It depends on different situations. But the bomb is so powerful. Glorio's Lightning Bolt is so powerful too because it's very instantaneous, and with the bomb it does even more damage and everything, so that's even more deadly. And his power pole dance literally just makes him have so much better survival. Look at that, like he just tanks the Kamehameha on the image right here and just chases after Goku so quickly. Yeah, this guy is so nasty. And his Swift Bar, this is the only thing I don't like about Daima Goku as much, is his ult, because he isn't all too safe in it. It's, you can like take him out with that and like he won't do his work necessarily, but even this is still decent. It can still take some bosses, you know, if you're not careful with it. Like he can do some good damage there, but really it's the Wasabi Bomb, it's Glorio, it's the pole dance. Like those three combinations, those are so powerful for Goku. And also, this is an interesting passive, is he's able to buff himself when facing an opponent with more levels. But it's kind of hard to find a situation where this kind of takes an effect, which is another criticism, I guess, of Goku, like Daima Goku. But still, this guy's so good. Like, there's not much I need to say. Like, if you've seen any Daima Goku gameplay at S rank, you will know he's basically a mini form of a monster. Like, he's just a demon. So yeah, Goku there, perfectly fine. Cell, y'all ain't ready for this conversation with Cell. And frankly, neither am I, because Cell is not a GOAT. I would love to glaze him that much, but for me, Cell, I would say you could put him either here, could be better, could be worse. Me, I would say he's quite good. And actually this is a lot of praise going to Cell, because basically you can see I have Cell above Baby, above Vegeta, in the same echelon as a Super Saiyan 2 Caulifla. Again, not in order, but in that same realm. And I think that is a very fair placement for Cell, because really, when people say Cell is the worst tank in the game, they say it for the specific purpose that in his base form, his HP is so low. And that is very true. His HP, like you see, level 11 versus, I think it's level 14 or something. It's hard to see right here, sorry about that. But his HP in his base form is terrible. Post-transformation, he's good. Post-transformation, I don't think anyone has a problem with Cell once he's in his perfect form. Look at the HP difference. Perfect form Cell is fine. I think everyone is good with him at that point. The problem with Cell is his first form. You have to treat him differently. And I don't think a lot of people are able to do it so easily. And to be fair, having to run Cell early game can be difficult, but early game, you want to treat Cell like a DPS character. You want to treat him like he is squishy, which he is. So you want to, at minimum, trade with the opponents so they take you out, you take them out, or ideally, you want to take them out, but basically play at a distance, take advantage of opportunities as they present, and then run away, which is kind of what First Form Cell did as a character. But you really need to do that, because once you get the bioenergy and transform, all of a sudden you get more HP, more armor, and your attack is increased, and all of a sudden Cell becomes a demon. He becomes a true dog. So you have to get that bioenergy, you have to play with Cell carefully early on. Once things change, then he's better. Big Bang Crash is nice. His Raid Smash is devastatingly nasty, because if an opponent runs away or something, you just chokehold them, you stagger them for a sec, they can't run away. And then the regeneration, I have to admit, the regeneration isn't my favorite thing in the world. There are situations where I just skip it altogether because I just don't need it or it isn't as valuable to me. But that is fine. His energy field actually is kind of good when it comes to Supreme bosses as well, because literally it creates a field that will block energy attacks from the outside. So you can use that to block, like I've had to block Special Beam Cannon, I think it was only one time I think, but I had to block that. That was so clutch, securing bosses, doing the damage. And of course when he's perfect, you create the Cell Games Arena. So then you do that one-on-one situation, and Cell being a tank with perfect form and all the HP, he's 9 times out of 10 going to beat the one-on-one. So yeah, I mean, Cell is very, very powerful in my opinion, very underrated. I think if you put him up here or any higher, I think that's just personal glazing at that point, so I don't want to go that far, but I think quite good is the right place to put Cell. Now, people are calling for a buff for him. I wouldn't be mad at that, personally, but if he's gonna get a buff, I need to emphasize for the dev team, this guy cannot get any buffs in his perfect form. The only buff that should come to him is either, maybe both, either a buff to his base HP in his first form, or a buff to his rate of accumulating bioenergy. Maybe he gets more bioenergy compared to before per absorption, right? So that's my only adjustments for Cell if I would make some, but Cell is overall fine. I think he's still a pretty good tank. It's just people get frustrated using him and all this sort of stuff, but I mean, he's definitely underrated in my opinion. So Cell, yeah, here I think is a good spot for him. All right, Android 17. Not gonna lie, could be better, could be worse. Kind of in a similar boat to Krillin, where he's not that bad actually. He's, you know, he's solid, but compared to the other technicals, which is something I kind of think about when I look at these characters as well, compared to the other technicals I could take, like Frieza and Buu and Gohan, I would rather take those characters over 17. So in that respect, 17, I think being down there is perfectly appropriate. He has some cool things to offer, a lot of support, you know, the energy ball, you know, the barrier ball thing kicking, the knuckle sandwich, quite literally, the barrier, which is actually pretty good, you know, buffing HP and everything, and even the ults, right? You and your ally heroes will gain extra HP, you know, so all that stuff, no healing. That can be very powerful. That actually will be a nice counter to, I believe, whatchamacallit, Majin Buu. But overall, like, you know, 17 is kind of iffy to me. Like, he's just not, for one, he's not used all that often anyways, for I think a lot of clear, obvious reasons. But also, even when he is used, he isn't all too oppressive to ruin your experience as an opponent. Like, he kind of needs his teammates to do a lot of the lifting too, to help him out, to kind of work in tandem. So that's the thing about 17 for me. That's kind of my issues with him. But yeah, 17 for me could be better, could be worse. I think that's a fair spot to put 17. He still has a lot of upside. I've seen some really masterful players use him, but I think overall he kind of is in this section right here for me. Hit, as much as I don't like Hit's playstyle, he is a GOAT of SQUADRA, and I say that again, I don't like Hit's playstyle because Hit's playstyle, it is appropriate to Hit as a character. He basically just hides in the shadows, attacks when the time is right, all that. The problem is, the way his mechanics work in the current game design, he can literally, like, I've seen Hit do this, where he attacks the dragon shell on my team, he never disappears from stealth, and he just cracks open the shell and takes the Dragon Ball, and you can't see him, so you don't know where to attack. You're just kind of throwing out attacks randomly, and he can just dash in, do whatever. Hit is so annoying when it comes to farming, God Destructions, Dragon Shells. That's what makes Hit so good, and that's what makes Hit players so annoying to face because they know what they're doing. So for me, Hit definitely deserves to be up there. If we were, you know, talking about an overall aspect, I would say he's right down here overall, but especially when you think about the fact that he can sneak God Destructions, do all that sort of stuff. Yeah, he's just so good. He's really good. It takes a lot of masterful skill to understand how to use him properly and to maximize him, but I guess that's the only criticism for Hit is that Hit players, a lot of them aren't that good with Hit because they don't know what the hell they're doing, but the people who learn Hit, they know how to cause a lot of havoc, and that is what makes them so special. So yeah, I think that's a perfectly valid assessment for Hit. I think Hit is still, you know, one of the GOATs. I think he's probably due for a nerf, but for the time being, he is still really good. Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, pre-buff and everything, I think they'll be down here. Post-buff, and they got a crazy buff at that. They're some of the greats. They're some of the greats. I could actually see myself making an argument for them being a GOAT, but there are issues with the Gammas, and really, it's kind of ingrained into their design philosophy, these issues. But one of the biggest issues is when you lose either Gamma 1 or Gamma 2, you can't use certain skills. So for example, Gamma 2 has less HP, but he can do more damage, right? That's basically the conceptual design. If Gamma 2 gets knocked out, you're forced into Gamma 1. With this, like when you're only having Gamma 1, you can't use your first skill anymore, even though it's off cooldown, because Gamma 2 is dead. And the only way to get the Gammas back is to either get KO'd and respawn, you have to do the ultimate with the special pose, or you heal them just going all the way back to the spawn point to heal them. So you have to do one of those three things. So in those aspects, like, you know, it's kind of annoying having to figure them out. That it does take some skill to masterfully use them, I think. But also at the same time, you know, the Gammas, especially post-buff, they are really good. The damage being done is really good. Their movement speed, their overall capacity is really good. The ability to switch them is nice. You know, so all those things, I really do like the Gammas. And also their special pose is pretty good too, especially, you know, when you get the core breaker for the Gamma 2 sacrifice. That is really nasty. Unfortunately, it can only be done once per battle, but this can quite literally wipe out an entire God Destruction. Like if you're like the enemy God Destructions, you could just get rid of everyone with it. So yeah, it's really good. The special pose is good. All of that, all amazing. All chef's kiss. The Gammas definitely are one of the greats for me. I just don't want to put them in the GOAT because they do have some weaknesses, like the inability to use certain skills if you lose one of the sides of the character, and you know, they don't have the best HP. They have some decent amount overall together combined, but it's not the best of the best. But yeah, I mean, overall, you know, they're still really good for sure. Really amazing. Super Saiyan Kale, also amongst some of the greats. Now, Kale, I will say there's an interesting thing about Kale here, where Kale and Trunks, to me, you could make the statement that they are kind of the similar type of character design, and I could agree with you. But there is something about Kale that I just like more than Trunks. And I think I know exactly what it is when I break it down, but you know, when we talk about Kale specifically, right? Kale is like Trunks, crazy burst damage, decent amount of range. Actually, now that I look at it, kind of similar to Bojack, which is also kind of funny that she is much better than Bojack right down here. But what I do love about Kale comes from her first skill, her third skill, and her super. Now her second skill, I will say, the Charge Force, it's nice, it can do some damage. When you combine it with the orb, that does a nice kind of T-pose kind of attack and everything. but it isn't the best thing in her arsenal. And in fact, when I look at it, I'm not the biggest fan of it compared to her other skills. Maybe if they buff the charge rate or something, maybe that would make me like it more, but it slows her down a bit. It kind of makes it weird. I'd rather just ignore the skill at times and do like a quick attack with it versus charging and holding it, because the other skills are much better. Blaster Shot on its own does a lot of burst damage. It is so good at getting rid of characters and securing those KOs. Such a good ability with the energy sphere. Obviously that in and of itself is more like a slow kind of attack, but right here, if you hit it with the Blaster Shot with that first skill, I think they showed the second skill first, right? The first skill, there we go. It does a dome attack and does more damage, and it's so powerful. So good. And the great thing about Kale here is, unlike Trunks with some of Trunks' abilities, Kale for the most part doesn't need to get in the mix to do her damage. She can kind of play at a bit of a distance, right? And she is also a character that doesn't have the craziest HP, doesn't have the best movement speed, so for her, being able to play from a distance is really helpful. Really helpful for making her succeed, for making your team succeed. So that is what I do love about her. And when she does need to get in the mix, that's when the super comes into play. In the super, you transform into Kale, of course, and then you get more HP, you change your attacks, and now you become the king, or the queen, I guess, of Unga Boonga, because she literally just chases people down, beats them up with rush attacks, and also your Vanish now can stagger the enemies. So she loses those blast attacks, but she can be really good with her melee attacks and all that. So, I mean, look at the damage. It's so nasty what she can do. Now, this is what I'll say about a criticism for Kale, and I already talked about the second skill and everything. One other criticism, I guess, with her passive, and not really her passive, but more so her rush attack, is the rush attack and all that, her skills become better when you're with someone. So if you're by herself, Kale can kind of struggle compared to her usual self. The other thing is, even though her super does give her more HP, some people, and I've done it myself too, where you use it when you're kind of like back against the wall, you will get some HP, but it won't be enough to save you from being burst down, like where everyone still keeps attacking you, takes you out. So Kale, she can seem scary, especially for newer players, she can be terrifying, but if you and your team focus it up, you can just take her out even in her ultimate form, because she can't be defensively sustaining everything. So, you know, in that respect, I think those are some weaknesses to Kale. But other than that, I mean, really, like, Kale is fantastic. She is really powerful, really exceptional. I think one of the greats for sure. Maybe she'll get a nerf. We'll have to wait and see on that. I don't think she deserves one, but she is still really awesome to me. Very fun, kind of tricky to pick up at first. I will say that from experience. It was hard to figure her out, but now that I got a good feel for her, now it's really easy to at least stay competitive with the rest of the players, if not excel, if you know what you're doing with her. All right, now we got the Season 1 heroes. So actually I'm going to save Super Saiyan 3 Goku, because I think we know what, actually no, let's talk about Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Let's keep it in order, like I said I would. Super Saiyan 3 Goku, come on, he's a GOAT. And actually I think it is safe to argue that he is the #1 character in the game currently. He hasn't gotten a nerf, no type of buff, nothing since releasing. And yet, this is what he is. This is what he is on release. So that should say a lot about how menacing he is. And if you look on Twitter, if you look on other videos, you will see how menacing Super Saiyan 3 Goku is because of this right here. Just starting off with this, his Super Kamehameha. I talked about this in my last vid when I talked about characters who need nerfs. His Super Kamehameha is at the top of my list of what needs to get nerfed for him, because he has a really good attack range in general, right? Decent attack range, right? And then you can move it. So you can literally move it up and down, and that just makes it, like, look at the range when it's fully charged, and then you can turn it as well. So if Goku on the opposite side is trying to run away, go up and down, trying to turn away, he can just turn it and chase you. That is insane in terms of what that is capable of. So yeah, that's nasty. The explosive strike isn't the craziest thing, but it does more damage the less HP the opponent has, so that can be great for finishing off an opponent. So kind of like Trunks' burst sword kind of thing. So, you know, pretty effective there with the instant transmission. This is also a pretty stupid thing about him, is he can go to any ally if he wants to escape, or if he goes to an opponent, right here, it becomes instant transmission Kamehameha if Super Kamehameha is activated immediately after use, allowing for fully charged Kamehameha. And of course, a fully charged Kamehameha has crazy range, crazy damage, and again, you can turn this. You can turn it and, you know, do all that. Goku is so annoying because of that combination. He really is just a pain in the ass because of that. And also, to be fair, He does do more damage to enemies who have a higher percentage of HP than himself, so he excels versus tanks as well. So, you know, all those things make him so good. The Dragon Fist, unfortunately, you can't get the level 3 until you transform with him, but I mean, really, why are you not going to transform with him? You get the buff to the HP and the damage, and that Dragon Fist does a lot of damage as well. It's really good, especially when opponents are trying to press you, because you're a damage dealer. You probably have pissed off the opponents with your Kamehamehas and everything. They chase you, bam, Dragon Fist right in front of him, and they are done. So Goku, definitely one of the GOATs, probably the GOAT of SQUADRA right now. But yeah, there's not too much I have to say about him. He's amazing. Super Saiyan Gotenks. For me, he is some of the greats. I've seen some people put him here in the quite good kind of section, like in the average kind of section, maybe down here maybe. For me, he's some of the greats. He is up here with those characters. Because when it comes to Super Saiyan Gotenks, he is still very good at enemy displacement, damage output, overall support, abilities. He has a lot of great stuff to offer. I mean, first of all, with his passive, you're giving movement speed buff to your allies when you KO or an assist against an enemy hero. So that is very clutch for moving to another lane or going after a boss or something. That can be a great thing already. His second skill, the Galactic Donut, is great for gathering, so that can be very good if you place it right. That can be huge for movement and everything. The ghosts, you can place them for defense, you can place them for offense, you can do so much nuisances with that sort of stuff right there. You can give them to your teammates too, so they can be like extra protective layers, if you will, which is really good. And his ult, right? We skipped his first skill for a reason. His ult literally can just do so much damage. Just to bosses, to the enemies, getting rid of them. No skills, no attacks to enemies hit with it, so on the last strike I should say. So yeah, I mean, this is a very nasty ability. And then his first skill literally is a warp mechanic. So you warp back to where you were when it started. And of course you see the warp, he's kind of going to some crazy distances and everything, giving himself some tank ability, and he staggers the enemy when he at the end of the attack, right? He staggers and warps back. So just like Gohan, the stagger, that can be very nasty. He warps back so you can't even chase him because you're staggered and he's run away. Gotenks is really awesome. I think Gotenks nowadays is maybe getting a bit underrated by most people, but he is still very good to me. Very exceptional design character. I do like him. I think in terms of a new season hero and everything, this is on average what I want from my new season heroes. Maybe on the GOAT section too, but not like Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Super Saiyan 3 Goku is a GOAT for the annoying reasons to me, I guess, in that sense. But to be fair, a lot of these other characters who are up here are also kind of annoying, right? So maybe that's what makes them so good. But yeah, Super Saiyan Gotenks here, I think that's perfectly fine there. Finally, God Destruction Toppo. We are clearly saving the best for last because we have the man right here who feels really freaking bad. This feels tough. If Bojack wasn't here, I think you could make a case that Toppo is the worst DPS in the game. And I say this knowing that early into Toppo's release, I was defending Toppo. I was saying people just got to figure out how to play with him. No one really knows what to do with him. They haven't mastered him yet. I've seen people master him, and he is exceptional when he's mastered, but even when, like, on average, he is not all that crazy. And the thing about Toppo is he has skills that make him very deadly. Like his third skill here with the, you know, the fighting stance, that can do a lot of damage if the enemy attacks you. But if you were just paying attention as an opponent and you see that, you stop, you run away, he will not do a damage to you. Like, I've had it happen where I don't touch Toppo in this position and I don't take any damage, no consequence, and I keep it pushing. That's literally it. And actually, in this process, my cooldowns come back because it's like 1-2 seconds of waiting. My cooldowns come back, and all of a sudden now I'm back to work. I'm cooking Toppo once again. And Toppo has some good HP, you know, and everything. He's got great, you know, damage over time capabilities. But for Toppo, the problem is he needs to get into the mix for his skills, his tornado. You have to be in the middle of everything, the flash and everything, the destructive flash. So he needs to kind of get involved. And also, you know, his sphere destruction, I think a lot of people were hoping this would be better than what it is. It is not that great at getting rid of bosses, at securing them. Not the best in terms of damage to me, especially because a lot of the damage is predicated on the mark of destruction. So, you know, those things kind of suck about Toppo. I think he could be better in those respects. The thing is cool though is that his passive allows him to get movement speed when chasing enemy who has mark of destruction. But you have to get the mark. You have to first get the mark of destruction anyhow. But also, like, it's only movement speed up, so it's good for chasing enemies. but for the most part, like, that's it. So yeah, I don't know, Toppo's interesting. I've seen some people say that build up is the best card for him to help him with his survivability and his success. He's a minimum difficulty character, which is kind of crazy because he's also very disappointing as a character, but I mean, overall, I will say Toppo has a lot of positive upside that can be accessible. It's just not as easy or consistent to access it. I think that's the best way to describe Toppo, is that he has a lot of good upside. You just don't often see it until very, very late game, or unless your team was already steamrolling the others to begin with. So that's what I'll say about that. Anyways, there we have it. That is my tier list. My voice is feeling very tired right now, I gotta say. Maybe you guys can hear it in the audio. But guys, let me know what you guys think about the tier list in the comments down below. Again, I do want to clarify, I try to be as objective as possible, but there is going to be bias, as you guys probably heard some of the bias in the vid and everything. And, you know, all this is subject to change and everything. You know, next day I could wake up and say the Super Saiyan 3 Goku is garbage. I don't know, probably not going to say that, but, you know, that's an example, right? So, you know, there's a lot of variance to this. Obviously, everyone's going to have different opinions and different takes, and that's all well and good. I encourage you guys to let me know in the comments below where you disagree with the list, you know, what changes would you make, all that sort of stuff. But if you guys enjoyed the vid, show your support down below, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe to the channel, drop a like, all those great things. If you want to see more tier lists like this more often and everything, let me know that in the comments down below as well. Hopefully this vid doesn't come out too long, because now I think about it, I think I've been yapping for quite a long bit here. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say there. Other than that, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, stay blessed, and I'll see you all in the next one.